So if you put a bunch of money into something that will not help its resale value, that's going to be a loss. That's not going to help you get where you want to go in life. What's up, people? Yeah, I had too much coffee today. Anyway, I have a question here from Carlos, and he writes, Dear Casey Putsch, I have a 2007 Chrysler 300cc. I keep saying CC, Chrysler 300cc. I'm thinking motorcycles. Sorry, man. 2007 Chrysler 300C. Yes, I can speak like a reasonably intelligent person. Anyway, he writes, and I wanted to ask you if you think I should straight pipe it or install a new catback system on it. I was also wondering whether it's worth putting a supercharger in it or just buying the same year SRT8. You have my permission to use my name, letter, and photos in the video. Sincerely, Carlos. First thing I'm going to tell you about everything else. I dig your car. That's totally cool. And I bet you do as well. But I bet you're going to have other cool cars in the future one day. So remember that one day you're going to have to sell it. And that means two things. One, you want to get your money out of it. So if you put a bunch of money into something that will not help its resale value, that's going to be a loss. That's not going to help you get where you want to go in life. It's just not. Okay, so remember that. Two, whatever you do to it, it needs to be something that maybe hopefully will help its sellability and marketability. Like other people, honestly, like the general populace who may buy that would be okay with that or want that too. Or something that you can reasonably easy remove and change back to stock or whatever, okay? That car is cool, but it still kind of fits in the middle of the bell curve a little bit, like normal people would buy it somewhat. So if you straight pipe it and make it super loud, just remember when you go to sell it, you're probably gonna need to throw some mufflers on it because, you know, that's gonna bug parents and it's gonna make it harder for you to sell it in the future. And also, you wanna sell your own car, don't trade it into a dealer because you always get ripped off, okay? So straight piping it, I like straight pipes, they're a lot of fun, okay? But in a daily driver or a car that's automatic, I find them annoying. Because in an automatic, it shifts at different times and it kind of just drones and bleh. So if you're doing an exhaust system, find that level where you get to have fun and it sounds good and it's cool, but one, you're not pissing off all your neighbors, you know what I'm saying? And making it really hard to ever get a warning from a police officer if you happen to get pulled over. And two, there may come a time when honestly it gets annoying. So just remember that too, having a good level. With that car, you might be able to find a muffler shop or, you know, some guys potentially in a smaller town that can do you an exhaust system, a catback, more on the cheap versus going out and buying something bolt-on. Or perhaps there's some really good bolt-on systems that you can do yourself that are on the cheap. Maybe you get something cheap off eBay that somebody's selling secondhand that's in great shape that you can put it on. Keep in mind, other than the tips, you can't see the exhaust system. It's going to get dirty anyway. So think about that when you're thinking of your resources and what you're going for. It all comes down to that. So the next question you asked is relating to a supercharger. Okay, this is a very simple rule of thumb. If you have a car that's naturally aspirated, the difference to put a supercharger on it and make the installation be nice, daily drivable, and just generally great will always be a lot more money than you can just sell your car for well and then go out and buy something really similar that already is that. My other rule of thumb is if you have to spend more than like a reasonably small percentage of what your car is worth to make it the car you want, then it's not the car you want. You need to sell it, put the money that you'd have spent modifying in it into getting a car that's more like what you already want. Like I started with a Volkswagen Golf. It wasn't what I wanted. But if all I ever did was modify that, I would still have a Volkswagen Golf. I wouldn't have like a Dodge Viper to drive. Does that make sense? And keep in mind, when you're doing an installation of a supercharger, it's aftermarket, okay? You know, some cars you can get the factory one and put it on, but it's still gonna be a heck of a lot of effort and time. And yeah, you might wanna learn, but there's also risk in putting it on because if you screw something up, it might mess it up. And it might hurt your resale value. But if it's an aftermarket build, it's never gonna be as tried, true, and tested as what a factory OEM can do. They make things work nicely over long periods of time and are quiet and don't blow up. Because if they made cars that blew up and were obnoxious, they wouldn't be able to sell them. When in doubt, go with the manufacturer's vast millions of dollars of research and development going into something other than yourself and an aftermarket company, if that makes sense. For that very reason, I have never supercharged a car or turbocharged a car of mine. I just don't do it. I sell it and get a car that's more like what I want already. And keep in mind that superchargers and turbochargers just make your car more prone to blowing up at all times. You know, if you want a faster car, sell it and go buy a faster car. Don't just make your car slightly faster and potential to blow up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's fun to do modifications and bolt-ons and things like that. It's cool, but it's expensive and you're not going to get the money back, and it doesn't make your car any more saleable. It just doesn't. And superchargers, you know, they have bypasses and whatnot, but they're being driven all the time, and that kind of kills your fuel mileage. That's why turbos are super popular. Helps the fuel mileage and drivability. Turbochargers nowadays spool up quicker and whatnot. So that's my advice to you. Just remember, you're going to sell this car one day. What's it going to be worth, and how big is your market when you go to sell it? You want the market to be huge. You want loads of potential buyers so you can sell it for the most amount possible. And you want to put the least amount of money in for the maximum return. ROI, return on an investment. Right, man? So that's just it. But I hope this is a little bit helpful and you enjoyed it. I'm glad you wrote me. I hope you guys like this video. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time.